لك الحمد يا إلهي بما جعلت النيروز عيدا للذين صاموا فيه.
November 27, 2015. A gunman shot and killed 2 civilians and a police officer during a 5-hour gun battle at a Colorado Springs Planned Parenthood abortion clinic.
She said there were some guys shooting.
What started as an appointment for son ended in pure chaos.
I was talking to my sister over the phone, and she couldn't really talk, and I heard that somebody was shooting.
Police say the shooter holed himself up inside Planned Parenthood around 11:30. When officers arrived, he allegedly shot at them through the windows, then began a 5-hour standoff inside that Planned Parenthood office. The gunman allegedly shooting at police a number of times. They used heavy military equipment to safely get people trapped inside that building out as they tried to reach the gunman.
The media immediately began to classify this incident as right-wing Christian terrorism.
What he did is domestic terrorism.
There's a lot of belief that this qualifies as a form of domestic terrorism.
What did we hear after the Paris attacks? Oh, it's time to shut down some mosques and time to register Muslims. But when it's homegrown terrorism, and this was an act of terrorism, now we're going to try to say it's going to be, oh, it's a lone wolf, a man with mental problems.
Attorney Dan King was assigned to defend Robert Deere in this mass shooting case. Interestingly enough, he is the same attorney selected to defend James Holmes in the Batman Dark Knight Rises shooting as well. It was reported that the alleged shooter shouted, "No more body parts," as he was arrested. This was a reference to an undercover video of a Planned Parenthood executive discussing selling fresh body parts of aborted babies.
Planned Parenthood is on the defensive this morning, facing an investigation of its practices. An undercover video alleges the reproductive health organization sells body parts from abortions. The group says the claims are flat out untrue.
Good morning. So the video was secretly recorded by the anti-abortion group as part of a 2.5-year sting operation. Here, 2 members posed as employees of a biotech firm to get access to a top doctor at Planned Parenthood. And over lunch, they recorded the whole conversation.
A lot of people want attack parts these days.
In graphic detail, Planned Parenthood's Senior Director of Medical Services described how to preserve valuable fetal tissue during an abortion.
We've been very good at getting parts on liver because we know that so I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see if I can get it intact.
Over wine and salad, she answered questions about the organization providing fetal tissue to researchers, typically for a fee.
I would say it's probably anywhere from $30 to $100, depending on the facility and what's involved.
In a recent video about the Paris shootings, we connected ISIS with the Beatles. Coincidentally, the Beatles have an album cover which shows them in lab coats with body parts of babies strewn about. This is obviously a reference to abortion, which is nothing less than child sacrifice that is required by Satan. Interestingly enough, the Eagles of death metal, who are named after the group that sings Hotel California and incidentally were performing in Paris at the Bataclan Theater when the shooting took place, have a song about San Bernardino, where this shooting took place. The Eagles of death metal are also known as EODM, which is an anagram for Edom or Esau. The symbol for Edom is none other than an eagle. See Obadiah chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. The police officer that was killed in this incident was 44 years old.
At least 3 people were killed, including a police officer, 44-year-old UCCS officer Garrett Swayze.
We have previously discussed the connection to 44, the mysterious stranger, or Satan, and Barack Obama. Through this event, we can clearly see that there's a concerted effort to demonize followers of Christ as possible domestic terrorists. The Law of Fives, or Principia Discordia's order out of chaos, is definitely being put into play because 5 days after this event, on December 2nd, 2015, a mass shooting occurred at the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino, California, in which 14 people were killed and 21 injured.
Now with our coverage here in the West tonight, breaking developments from San Bernardino, California. Authorities saying those 2 suspects, a man and a woman, now dead.
This incident was another orchestrated event by the evil oligarchy, which is led by the spirit of Antichrist. This is demonstrated from the very outset of this incident, symbolically through a witness that was interviewed at the scene. Notice the Masonic emblem on his hat.
I'm trying to figure out what was going on.
It should be noted that a nurse named Dorothy Vaughn recorded SWAT teams dressed in tactical gear coming onto the property of her place of employment.
Dorothy Vaughn assumed this was a drill, just like all the others that had worked. She had drills there. And at the Island Regional Medical Center, where she's a nurse, the Inland Regional Medical Center, they had drill. The staff works with clients and patients of clients who are sometimes angry. They have active shooter drills in this facility every month or so. So she, Dorothy Vaughn, thought this was a drill.
We know that drills were conducted in the days leading up to 9/11, as well as the 7/7 bombings in London.
Well, the fact is that the United States government cannot tell the truth, cannot really come clean on this because of what actually happened. In very crude terms, 9/11 represents a war provocation spawned within the bowels of the U.S. intelligence community by a group which we can call the Rogue Network or Invisible Government. It was done through a very large concentration of drills, about 25 or more, that were being held on that morning. Every aspect of 9/11 corresponds to a drill and indeed was produced through a drill.
They have active shooter drills in this facility every month or so. So she, Dorothy Vaughn, thought this was a drill.
The purpose of all this was the desire by Wall Street aggressive circles, I guess we could say, to start the war of civilizations, to start the war that immediately began with an ultimatum to Pakistan, an invasion of Afghanistan, then expanded later on to a war with Iraq, and still the aggression against Libya and other countries from Yemen to Somalia and all over the world, all conducted under the aegis of this absurd, really fantastic 9/11 myth.
This specific event was meant to further the appearance of chaos and anarchy in America in order to help push stricter gun control laws.
What we do know is that we have a pattern now of mass shootings in this country that has no parallel anywhere else in the world. And there's some steps we could take, not to eliminate every one of these mass shootings, but to improve the odds that they don't happen as frequently. Common sense gun safety laws, stronger background checks, and for those who are concerned about terrorism, some may be aware of the fact that we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but those same people who we don't allow to fly could go into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing that we can do to stop them.
Conveniently, this shooting has also been linked to ISIS.
And we are coming on the air right now because we have the clearest indication yet that shooting rampage 2 days ago in San Bernardino, California, was an act of terror inspired by ISIS. Tashfeen Malik, the wife who was part of that killing couple, actually made a pledge of allegiance to ISIS on social media.
That's right, George. Senior government officials tell us that Tashfeen Malik, the woman who helped carry out that massacre in California, had pledged allegiance to the Islamic State in a Facebook posting. Using an alias, she allegedly pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in the hours just before the massacre.
This is done in order to trick the American public into believing that ISIS militants have already invaded this country and are now lying in wait to unleash vicious terrorist attacks across this nation.
The purpose of all this was the desire by Wall Street aggressive circles, I guess we could say, to start the war of civilization.
So breaking this morning, ISIS has released a new video in direct response to President Obama's plan to, quote, degrade and ultimately destroy the terror group. The video seems to dare American troops to come after ISIS in Iraq.
It is apparent that there is an agenda being pushed to cause the American public to clamor for war against ISIS. This war will be the fulfillment of 33rd degree Freemason Albert Pike's vision of a third world war used to usher in the New World Order, Age of Aquarius, or Antichrist in the tribulation period. When we break down the names of places and people involved in this incident, we get a very interesting message. In the interest of time and for the purposes of maintaining the fluidity and cohesion of this video presentation, I will only read the hidden message. However, an entire breakdown of the etymology of each name will be provided in the description box, proving the integrity of this message. In the interior parts of the country, region, and nation, at its center, the major concern and theme shall be rebellion and revolution. This is the symbol and sign of the age of Aquarius and the Antichrist. Saints, holy ones, be strong, brave and bold as a bear. The Khalifah, the civil and religious leader of Muslims, considered to be the representative of Allah on earth, will unite all Islamic lands and people in an effort to subjugate the world, and the land shall run red with blood. The Lord and Prince, the angel who is the keeper of the gates of heaven, is pleased and satisfied. He is a seer of truth, who can discern right from wrong, and he shall be sympathetic and compassionate to the servants of the King. They shall be taken care of and looked after. This is God's gift. You shall become kings. In closing, we have learned that there is an ongoing attempt by the spirit of Antichrist, which is assisted by members of a malevolent secret society, to actively bring about chaos, anarchy, revolution, and war, not just to America, but to the world at large. This represents the age of Aquarius and the reign of Antichrist. The world is now bearing witness to the rise of the Islamic Caliphate, which will lead to an attack on Israel and World War III. At the same time, the hatred for followers of Christ across the world is being stoked as well.
Which passages of Scripture should guide our public policy? Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay? Or we could go with Deuteronomy, which suggests stoning your child if he strays from the faith? Or should we just stick to the Sermon on the Mount, a passage that is so radical that it's doubtful that our own Defense Department would survive its application? Folks haven't been reading the Bible.
These events are setting the world up for the rejection of all organized religion because of carefully planned attacks that are made to look like the result of religious extremism. Because of these attacks, the public will become disillusioned and grow increasingly weary of religion and God altogether, thus setting the stage for the acceptance of the doctrine and worship of Lucifer, perfectly following the plan laid out by 33rd degree Freemason Albert Pike. Do you have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand what is occurring in the world around you?